Today, a searchlight turns to the power supply situation under a co-electricity distribution zone, one of the 11 offshoots of the electricity power reforms in Nigeria. Despite the fact that the roadmap for the power sector was presented to Nigerians as a foolproof solution to the unending power cuts in the country, the demand for stable power supply remains an elusive dream. Where is the weakest link in the turnaround initiative of the power sector in Nigeria? Welcome to Question Time. I'm Benga Ashiru. You can also be a part of this conversation by joining us on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Few weeks after the coming on board of the President Buhari's administration, the sudden improvements in the power supply had raised eyebrows about what wand the president must have wielded in the spur of the moment. It wasn't long after the permanent secretary of the Power Ministry, Ambassador Godnose Igali, alluding that the improvement was due to the gas supply in the country. But it wasn't quite long that the drop in the power supply resurfaces. What could be the reason for this drop in the supply breakdown? Could this be as a result of the reported challenge from the Egbe power station? How could it be that those in the distribution chain are no longer jittery of Mr. President's body language? Or perhaps the investors just didn't do their due diligence. In our fact-finding mission, Channels TV was at the Eco Electricity Distribution Company PLC in Lagos. We met with the CEO, Mr. Oladele Amoda. It says the power distribution is capital intensive, which requires time to be fixed. It's been 2 years since you took over the management of this distribution company. What specifically have you done to enhance the capacity of your network to gain additional power from the national grid?
We are all aware of the state of things in the power industry. The power industry was largely neglected for more than 20 years because of a lack of investment in the sector. Because government cannot muster enough fund, to take care of the sector required at that time. So when we came in after privatization, exactly almost 2 years ago, November 1st, 2013, we look at the network that we inherited. It was a rundown, network. Dilapidated. Most of the assets were old because the investor didn't have the chance, the opportunity, to have a closer look before privatization due to labor issues.
Are you suggesting that the investors were not given access to carry out their own independent feasibility studies before putting their money on the power sector?
They did some studies, but they couldn't come into the assets because they were prevented, by the labor. There was so much of labor issue then. They didn't allow them to come in to really assess, completely what they are getting into.
Who is responsible for hoarding this vital information? This sounds more like a case of fraud.
The problem then was that the labor union did not allow the investors to do enough due diligence. They only rely on some, documents that were provided, but document cannot tell all the stories. They need to actually, look at the condition of the assets because they, that time they hired some experts, but those experts couldn't come. They couldn't go into the discourse. In fact, into any of the, power, companies then.
Are you implying that that is one of the dividends of democracy?
Of course, because the investors are now bringing in funds. If not for their intervention, things could have been worse. So they brought in money with which we are gradually rehabilitating the network, expanding and reinforcing the network. And as it is happening in ECO, it is happening in every other disco. It is happening in the power, generation company also. I mean, for instance, Egbe power stations, they've been able to ramp up from about 500 megawatts they met on ground to close to the installed capacity now.
What's the installed capacity of the network?
The installed capacity is 1,320, and as at the last count, they had done about 1,100, and they have, yesterday we had a meeting with them. They have promised that in another 2-3 weeks' time, they will ramp up to full capacity, which is 1,320, which is a very good thing. Without investor, government couldn't have achieved such a feat. Similar thing is happening in Oladele, where they moved from about less than 100 megawatts to now maybe 300 or 400, and they are planning to add more capacity there.
We understand that Egbe terminal has been undergoing some internal problems which is affecting the capacity for distribution now.
It's not true. They had some issues with within the place, but it didn't affect production that much. It affected their production for maybe just a week or so, and it has been sorted out. That one has been sorted out, and they are producing now. Though they are producing at about 800 or so, because one of the unit 1 also, is undergoing maintenance, so plant maintenance, because once in a while the machines have to be maintained.
You can also be a part of this conversation by sending us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Coming up in Question Time, why do we still have load shedding in areas under the Eko electricity distribution zone? Join us again.